I'm not sure if any of you have seen this, but apparently Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is a really big free speech head. If you look at Justin Trudeau, the first thing you think after all the terrible things are, man, that guy really loves himself some free speech. That guy loves nothing better than waking up in the morning, throwing on a podcast he doesn't really like, listening to what people have to say because he's just that big of a free speech guy. But anyways, he said this in Parliament the other day. It's truly ridiculous. I need you to hear it before I start talking about it.
The people are forgetting a little bit that we're a country that protects the freedom of expression, that protects liberty of conscience, that respects and supports people even when we disagree with them across various points of view. That has been one of the strengths of Canada for our entire existence. We're a place that does diversity better than just about anywhere else.
Okay, well, now that might be one of the most ironic statements Justin Trudeau has ever made. Really, I think what he really likes to do when he wakes up in the morning is think about all the most hypocritical things he can do throughout the day, and that definitely has to top the list. Even just outside of the free speech issue, he even mentioned conscience. Like, we have freedom of conscience in this country. Dude, remember when you attacked Aaron O'Toole, who was not pro-life in any way? You attacked Aaron O'Toole for taking the bare minimum position that doctors should have conscience rights. You said that that was an attack on women or something like that. You were that guy who thinks that doctors should not be able to say, I don't want to perform a MAID procedure and I don't want to have to refer you to someone who does it. That's Justin Trudeau. And on the freedom of expression thing and, speech, does he remember the trucker convoy? Him and Freeland literally froze people's bank accounts. He goes after people all the time for expressing their views. He twists their meanings and then assumes that they should be or demands that they be thrown off social media and they shouldn't be allowed to speak. Right now, you are likely watching this on YouTube and not my far bigger Facebook page because I cannot use my Facebook page because the National Telegraph is no longer allowed to post stuff because he tried to extort Facebook to get a bunch of money from them for his legacy media allies. And then Facebook had to basically shut down Canadian news in Canada simply because he was trying to get like $56 million out of them per year for every time someone clicks on a Canadian news article, which would not benefit me in any way. And even then, Facebook doesn't owe me a dime. I get to use their platform for free to connect with people. And now I don't because Trudeau thinks I should get a penny for every time someone clicks on one of my articles, which would get me a grand total of basically no money. So who gives a crap? Anyways, but man, this is really demonstrating. I think that Trudeau's in the middle of a massive pivot right now. Because think of what Trudeau was like just 2 years ago. Really wasn't talking about housing, really didn't care about affordability. They're just denying that there was affordability issues whatsoever and shutting down like the Freedom Convoy, attacking free speech everywhere. And now he's suddenly, trying to remove the carbon tax on specific individuals and he's trying to stand up for free expression. He's doing it all the stupidest ways possible. He goes to India and tries to criticize them for cracking down on Khalistani extremist expression rights while he cracks down on normal Canadians. But whatever, I guess he's technically trying to move in the right direction in the most hypocritical and fake way possible, but he is technically trying here, people. He's not going to save them, but he's at least trying to shore up his legacy so people don't remember him being the prime minister as the guy who basically ruined every single file that he touched. That is who he is. But he at least wants to use some rhetorical tricks around the margins to pretend that he wasn't the guy who froze people's bank accounts, shut down social media free speech, and all this other stuff. No. Justin Trudeau is as a freedom warrior. That guy every single day is just waking up in the morning. I've said this waking up in the morning thing 3 times now, but I'm going back to the well. But he wakes up in the morning definitely trying to fight for Wyatt Claypool's free speech rights. But I think that at this point, these clips, if anything, hurt Justin Trudeau. Any Canadian who sees him talking about this stuff just kind of groans and in disgust. And anyone who's on Justin Trudeau's side, that's kind of the funny thing. The orange liberal crowd, the hyper socially progressive people who could care less about economics, those people don't actually like that Justin Trudeau's talking about free speech and free expression. Those people scorn free speech and free expression. Not that they're mad at Trudeau for saying this, but this doesn't actually shore up his own base. If anything, this just is kind of like a bit of a wet fart of a statement in their minds from Trudeau because they're waiting for more social programs, less free speech rights for those that they don't like. They want Justin Trudeau to basically declare war on Israel at this point because the Liberals have inherited a very, very anti-Semitic base these days. That's the one reason I think that they're staying above water is they're fighting the Green Party over all of their Jew-hating voters. So I guess that's what the the Trudeau liberals are going for these days. But again, I'm not sure really what Trudeau is even attempting to do right now. It's a lot of the statements over the past like couple months have been just very funny to follow, just on all of his sort of commitments to like peace and commitments to like helping people get into homes or whatever, and all of them are completely contradictory over his actions of the past 8 years. But I'm just going to sort of wheel off a little bit here. This might seem like a bit of a strange aside. I'm going to go pull up the tweets if I can. And it's because, and again, this is going to seem like a very odd aside, people don't understand what cancel culture is. There's been a lot of PPC people on my timeline complaining at Gad Sad right now because he's been making the statement. I'll just quickly grab a screenshot of this. But he made a statement about how, like, obviously, if someone's pro-Hamas, it is perfectly okay to think, well, I don't want that person employed in my business. I don't want that person flying the plane I'm on. I don't want that person cooking my food and all sorts of stuff like that. And you have all these people who really, their entire lives are just trying to call hypocrite, or they're basically saying, you are unprincipled, every conservative around, when this is a perfectly principled conservative position. But this is kind of what the PPC has become. It's the opposite of Justin Trudeau. It's the not only should free expression, free speech be absolute, which I believe, that you also shouldn't be able to criticize anyone's free speech or say that I would employ that person for saying that. That's now cancel culture. But this is what Gadsad said in response to a guy who was going after him. And I think it's absolutely correct. Gad said, fighting against cancel culture does not imply that anyone can say anything that they want, voided of possible consequences. The law of cause and effect does not cease to exist just because I'm a free speech absolutist. Example, I support the right of Holocaust deniers to spew their nonsense, but I do not have to invite them to my birthday party. And that is 100% true. But you have certain people out there who they're not actually very conservative as individuals. They're just looking to be contrarian against people who are conservative. So again, it's PPC people who, when a conservative takes a conservative position, the first thing that pops up in their mind is, how can I prove that I'm more conservative than this guy? This is why the PPC's never gotten off the ground. It's just a purity testing party where you're always trying to prove that you're better than those blue people over there, because we're the purple people and we're the real conservatives. And even though a lot of their positions are just taking a actual conservative position and then adding a bunch of extra nonsense like purity testing sort of measures to it. So on all this stuff, if someone goes and chants from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, and all these genocide implying statements about wiping out the state of Israel, supporting Hamas, calling for a ceasefire, when none of these people condemned Hamas for murdering 1,400 Jews in southern Israel. If I was a business owner who has had many employees and one of my employees went to that rally, I'd feel nothing by firing that person. Because if you have such a lack of moral fiber in your being, and unless you're like so stupid that you said it and you're obviously just being you're going along with the crowd, you can tell when someone doesn't actually believe the things that they're saying. But if you had someone who truly believes this Hamas rhetoric that many activists on the streets are spewing, I would fire that person. I don't want to have to support that person's lifestyle and all their political views. So I'm not going to contribute to them by letting them be employed in my company, especially if I know that they have anti-Semitic views. That's not cancel culture. That's just reacting to the things that people say in a rational way. Cancel culture is that if you tell a bad joke in an office and someone fires you because they took it out of context and there was a million people flooding the email, like the inbox of your company, and they were calling them up saying, fire this guy, he's a racist, he's a bigot, and you're obviously not, and they're just trying to gin up a bunch of hysteria against you, that's cancel culture. If you get a swastika tattoo on your forehead and start talking about how much you don't like the Zionist Jewish state, you're probably going to get fired for good reason. If you burn a Canadian flag and you hate the country and you think that like Canada's a colonial state that doesn't deserve the land we're on, and you go to land back rallies and that you obviously hate Canadian veterans, a Canadian company should not have to employ you. That's insane. But at the same time, you shouldn't fire someone who, if a mob comes to you and says that they're a bad person, there's no evidence of it. You shouldn't do that. So hopefully this video doesn't feel like it's taking a bit of a weird turn here from the Trudeau stuff. But that's where I'm at least trying to take a stand for rationality. Trudeau is a anti-free speech gangster bully. But I don't think that the remedy to someone like Justin Trudeau being against free speech is that we become moral relativists on the right and we say all speech is basically equal in value, and no matter what someone says, you can't react negatively to it or you're canceling them. No, you're allowed to react how you want to speech as long as you do not trying to shut that person's ability to speak down. You are not obligated to employ that person or pay for them or donate to them or amplify them. You don't have to do any of that stuff. I don't think they should be kicked off social media unless they're inciting violence. But the reaction to Justin Trudeau's position is to not go to the other extreme of moral relativism of saying every single piece of free speech is amazing, whereas like to oppose Justin Trudeau's some speech should be canceled kind of a thing. That's not good, and you're never going to win an election based on that basis. And I'm not saying this purely because we should only say things that win us elections. I think that's a foolish thing to do in the long run because you're just going to turn yourself into like a shell of a politician who only takes positions no one could possibly disagree with, which is a very phony thing to do. But you don't beat Trudeau by just being a contrarian against him. The thing is that 50% of the things that Trudeau says are correct. It's not because it doesn't make him a good prime minister. It's hard to not at least be correct on half the things that you say in the day. It's the margin of what he says that's wrong. It's like, is his housing plan 100% bad? No, but it's deeply misguided and it's inflating the market and it's probably not going to get a lot of people in houses and it's trying to saddle the taxpayer with more stuff. It's not like his housing plan is burning down houses. That would be the 100% wrong thing to do. Obviously, he's not doing that. It's the nuances of his plan that make his actual plan toxic in the long run. That's what people like. Is there anything inherently wrong in the short run? If for some reason we had a housing crisis in the next 6 months, we only knew it was going to take 6 months to have a rent control plan for 6 months only. That's not that bad. I could go along with that. That'd be okay. Obviously, rent control is never going to be in place for only 6 months, and rent control in the long run reduces the amount of rental properties available because no one wants to rent into a market where they might have to offer properties at below market value. That's my point in general is that whenever you're disagreeing with a leftist politician, be specific on what you disagree with, or you become kind of a bit of a cartoon the way the PPC does, where they just take radically opposite positions to everyone in order just to be contradictory. Like, again, you're never going to disagree with 100% of what someone's saying unless they're truly insane. So what you have to always do is market on the things that you actually differ with them on. Don't just say that Trudeau has a housing plan. Well, we don't have a housing plan and the government shouldn't even touch housing. I think the government should barely touch housing, but there is little bits and pieces of stuff that the government can do on housing. Generally speaking, the government should be much smaller, but just because Trudeau is a big government, like a big government leftist, does not mean I'm going to be an anarcho-capitalist to just prove how much different I am than Justin Trudeau. Anyways, hopefully this video didn't feel like it went off the rails. I have my usual donation link in the description of this video below. And also, of course, I'm running for the Conservative nomination for Calgary Signal Hill. So if you live in that riding, buy a membership, vote for me, and then follow me on X. I also have that link in the description below. I have my questioning for my legal case happening tomorrow. I think it's going to go very well. I've done nothing wrong. T and the National Telegraph did nothing wrong. And so we basically just have to say that in questioning before we can hopefully end this case as fast as humanly possible.